Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Anna Vella. And although I said earlier that I wouldn't participate in Nonfiction November organized by the great Olive from Book Olive, I changed my mind. It happens. Well, I have some recommendations for you. I am a very avid nonfiction reader, and Olive wants that we try to read a little bit more nonfiction than we used to. So if you read only one nonfiction book a year or never, try to read one or two extra, or if you read only 4 nonfiction books a month, well, read 5, or read out of your comfort zone. She has 4 prompts, and the prompts are record, element, secret, and border. And I've tried to find a couple of books that more or less fit into the genre. Let's start with secret. I immediately thought of, this book. These Truths by A History of the United States by Jill Lepore. Okay, if you want to read this book and you want to learn more about this book, I will put a link down below to Kim's channel of Middle of the Book March, because she has a brilliant video about this book and she really sold me on this one. I am only like 100 pages in, not even. Widely hailed for its sweeping, sobering account of the American past, Jill Lepore's 1-volume history of America places truth itself, a devotion to facts, proof, and evidence, at the center of the nation's history. The American experiment rests on 3 ideas: political equality, natural rights, and the sovereignty of the people. But has the nation and democracy itself delivered on that promise? This is what the book is about, and it immediately made me think of another one that I really enjoyed, but it has been at least 10 years since I've read this book. It's called A People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn. This is a brilliant book. It talks about the history of the United States, told through the eyes of the indigenous people, of poor white people, of women and black slaves. And for instance, one of the stories that I vividly remember from this book is how when slavery became widespread in the United States, a lot of white people rebelled against it because they thought it was inhuman. They felt sorry for the black people. And a lot of American politicians were slave owners. I think there were 8 American presidents that were slave owners. And they started a campaign against black people. So they kind of institutionalized racism. And yeah, it's divide and conquer. So in the United States, it was no different. Same goes for the indigenous people. So it is brilliantly written. If you don't want to read the book, at least read the 1-star reviews on this book on Goodreads. You'll have an amazing afternoon. A book that falls under secret but also under border is The Ratline by Philippe Sands. I have this from the library. It's just out. I think it was written in 2020 in English. So The Ratline is about... So Philippe Sands met the son of a suspected Nazi/killer that was responsible for the death of thousands of Jews and Polish people. He was that was Otto Weicher. Otto Weicher was a Nazi. That's him and his family. He wasn't a very good guy. If you are a Nazi, you were convinced that you were better than the rest. But was he partly responsible for the genocide? Yes, of course, but was he personally responsible for the death of thousands of Jews and German and Polish people? Well, his son was not convinced, and together with the author, Philippe Sands, they go and look for the truth. And so there was a Ratline, so where Nazis could escape to Argentina. And during his escape, he died under very suspicious circumstances. And they want to know why, what happened to him, and if he really was responsible for all those deaths. For me, it falls under secret and border because, yeah, he had to cross borders to get to Argentina. Then also Border. This is a book that is the most popular history book in Belgium. It is The Burgundians by Bart van Loo. It just came out in paperback, Burgundians by Bart van Loo. Bart van Loo, this is the guy, he is a master storyteller. So, why did I pick this for Border? In the 14th century, 14th, 15th century, you had France. It was a big nation. And then you still had the Roman Empire. And in between, there were, in the Netherlands, or the Low Countries, there were a couple of dukes, the Burgundians, and they wiggled their way in between France and became bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And they were actually the founders of what now is Belgium and the Netherlands. He calls it as a story of the real Game of Thrones, but without the dragons. It is just as spectacular and amazing and fascinating. They married off their children, they betrayed each other, it's an amazing, they had an enormous wealth and power, but also it helped us to build the cities that we now have, like Ghent and Bruges and Antwerp and Mons, and beautiful cities, beautiful medieval cities. And also our art, Jan van Eyck, my favorite, Rogier van der Weyden. It is beautiful, and it helped our culture that is now so interesting to watch and to see. I will put a link down below to Bart van Loo's little video. It's a 2-minute video of how he talks about his book, The Burgundians, in English. There you immediately feel how he is such a great storyteller. He loves using anecdotes to tell a story. And it is like, he tells it so well, you know, it's the history teacher everyone wishes he had. So he does it with so much passion and with so much bravura. You can't do but listen to him. He's so passionate, so amazing. So The Burgundians by Bart van Loo, a must read. Then another that can fall under Border is The Treeline. This is an ebook that I just bought. It is, and also Element. It also falls under Element. It's The Last Forest and the Future Life on Earth, and it's written by Ben Rawlence. So the tree line is, you have a tree line in height, but you have also one in length, which means that in the Arctic, Siberia, Scandinavia, Greenland, Alaska, trees grow up to a certain point, and there's also a special type of trees that live there. 6 species or 6 types of trees that only can live there in very, very cold and difficult circumstances. He researches why that borderline is declining and also, or evaporating in a way, and also he also researches how important are they for our climate, and what will happen if they completely disappear. So it must be, I think it's a great way to talk about borders. The Tree Line, The Last Forest, and the Future of Life on Earth by Ben Rawlence. Also, under elements, I thought of this one, Wild Souls, Freedom and Flourishing in the Non-Human World. This is the Dutch version. I just brought it from the library. I haven't read it yet. So it is written by Emma Marris. So she investigates how, if there's still real wildlife, if species are worth saving, yes or no, if you can justify hunting, all kinds of things. And it looks like a very interesting book. It's apparently very emotional, very inspiring. She talks about the Peruvian monkeys, about rare birds on Hawaii, the majestuous wolves in Oregon. So it is, and how we relate to wildlife now. So it to me, it seems like an amazing book. Then, also under Elements falls Madhouse at the End of the Earth by Julian Sancton. I talked about this book on this channel before. It is the book that you must read if you never read nonfiction, but you like a good adventure story. So it is a bit like The Terror, but without the magical element. This is a book about the Belgica, which was a Belgian ship, an explorer ship. They wanted to explore the Antarctica, the Arctic, but they were a little bit late in the season, so of course they got stuck during the winter time, and most of the people who were on this ship went mad, truly mad, of hunger, of the lack of sunlight. They went mad. There was one guy on the ship, a very young Edmundson, the later famous explorer, and he thrived on this book. And we talk, de Gerlache was the captain and the owner of the ship. He was the organizer of this expedition, and it talks about de Gerlache, about how Edmundson lived there, how they had to eat raw penguin to survive, but most of them couldn't eat penguin. It also talks about how some men were actually drunks and not capable of being on that ship. The cook on that ship was actually not a cook. He lied and he couldn't cook, and the men really suffered on that ship. It can be funny for one night, but not for months and months on end on a ship. So if you don't know anything about nutrition and cooking, it can be disastrous, and it was disastrous. So it is an amazing book. Element, of course, you have to fight the elements when you're on in the Arctic. Then records. One of my favorite history writers is Simon Schama. I think that's the way you pronounce it, and it is The Embarrassment of Riches. This is the Dutch novel, the Dutch version. It is also about the Dutch culture of the Netherlands in the Golden Century. He tells this through the eyes of the common people. He follows a couple of small villages on the countryside, a couple of cities that were also harbors, and he talks about it through the eyes of the common people. So the baker, the fisherman, whatever. And of course, the Netherlands were strictly Protestant, so they had a thing with being rich. It wasn't actually very good, but they made a lot of money, and the clash of those things, that really, it was a constant clash of morality. He uses all sorts of documents to tell his story. It is an amazing storyteller, Simon Schama, and it is really well worth reading. The Embarrassment of Riches, the Dutch culture in the Golden Century. Another book that falls on the record, because Olive said that diary is also a record of daily life. And a brilliant diarist is Count Harry Kessler. He was a German. He kept his diary between 1918 and 1937. He was a Jew, and he kept his diary when he was alive, unfortunately. So it starts at the end of the First World War, and he lived in Berlin, and it talks about the Weimar years leading up to the takeover of the Nazis. He lived in the very important and the very interesting circles. So the art people, the people of Bauhaus, and all those things. So he met people he knew people like Einstein, Josephine Baker, Bertolt Brecht, Virginia Woolf, Jean Cocteau, André Gide, just to name a couple of them. And he talks about how he met them, how they were. Very, very interesting how life was when the lights went out and every week all the little people went to bed and they started partying and stuff like that. So yeah, it's really, he makes them come alive. He's a brilliant diarist, so it is worth reading if you are interested in that period, and I am. Really good. Then another is a bit of a freebie. I kept it under record, but it's also a bit of a secret. The Dutch author Rutger Bregman has written a book that's called De meeste mensen deugen. And it is translated in English as Humankind, A Hopeful History. I prefer this title, the Dutch title. It means most people are okay, are fine, are good people. So it is a new history of humankind. He talks about how people are capable of doing good things, but also are capable of genocide and why. He also talks about the book The Lord of the Flies, and how that story is very unlikely to happen. There are many examples where there isn't terror, but mostly a democracy when people are isolated. He also talks about why the human race survived, and for instance, not the Homo sapiens. How can we declare our most horrific acts, but also he wants to know if we are deep inside, are we more prone to the evil or to the good? And he also wants to know why a religious person calls himself a sinner. Very interesting. Rutger Bregman, you might know him from the G7. There was a G7 a couple of years ago, where, you know, the G7 is when all the rich people come together with their private jets and talk about environmental issues. And he was invited to talk about something, and they asked him a question, and he didn't answer the question, but he started a monologue. And it was towards all the rich people that were in the room, like Bezos, like Richard Branson, everybody. And he said, basically, he said, you rich MFers, pay your taxes, because it's not okay that a mailman has to pay more taxes. One mailman has to pay more taxes than entire Amazon. That is not okay. That is not okay. Even though they provide work for millions of people, they just don't pay them enough. Not only that, but they don't pay taxes. And he said, pay taxes. I will put a link, if I can find it, to his monologue. It is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So yeah, these are my books. I hope you like them. I hope you find something interesting amongst them. Read them, enjoy them. I will put a link to Kim, her review of this one, These Truths, and to Bart van Loo, his introduction of the Burgundians, and to Rutger Bregman, his monologue, brilliant monologue. And this is a brilliant book. It looks thick, but it's a very big typo, and yeah, a lot of epilogue and things that, yeah, research. So yeah, Sunday, I have a coffee clutch, like always. Watch it, but because it will be controversial, I will go against a popular opinion. Dare I? Yes, I dare. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.